I'm Nathaniel Nate Thompson, and I've built a life decoding lies until the one I loved most wove a web so tight it nearly choked my family. At 42, he owned Thompson Security Solutions, a private firm that specialized in corporate espionage prevention and personal protection for high-net-worth individuals. His military background as a Green Beret had taught him patience, precision, and most importantly, that trust was a luxury he couldn't afford, except when it came to his family. The Thompson household in Greenwich, Massachusetts had been the picture of suburban perfection. Nate's wife, Claire, was a real estate agent who had sold multi-million-dollar homes with the same ease she'd sold him on the idea of their forever love 10 years ago. Their son, Ethan, was a bright 11-year-old who'd inherited Nate's analytical mind and Claire's charm. Nate had met Claire at a charity gala in Boston. She was 30 then, recently divorced from her college sweetheart Derek Sullivan and working to rebuild her life. Nate was immediately drawn to her vulnerability, masked by fierce independence. She claimed Derek had been controlling and emotionally abusive, painting herself as the victim who'd escaped the toxic marriage. Nate, being the protector he was, fell hard for both her story and her beauty. What Nate didn't know was that Claire had been planting seeds of deception since their first meeting, slipping coded messages to Derek through her gala contacts, hinting at a reunion. Derek had spent the years since their divorce building a landscaping company, staying single, and secretly funding Claire's schemes, believing she'd return once she'd secured Nate's wealth. The morning that shattered Nate's world started like any other. He'd returned early from a 5-day business trip to Seattle, planning to surprise Claire and Ethan. Instead, he found their Greenwich home empty, with a note on the kitchen counter written in Claire's careful handwriting, "Nate, I can't pretend anymore. Derek and I have been planning our future. I've sold the house. The papers are in your office. Ethan and I are with him now. We'll handle custody through lawyers. Don't fight us. Claire." Nate read the note 3 times before the reality hit him. He checked his office and found the house sale documents. Claire had hacked his digital signature using a backdoor in his firm's server 6 months ago, selling their $1,450,000 0 cents home to a shell corporation for $1 million 0 cents. The money had already been transferred to an account he'd never seen before, but it was the custody papers attached that made his blood run cold. Claire was claiming he was an unfit father due to his dangerous profession and extended absences, demanding full custody, with supervised visitation only. Ethan texted, "Dad, I'm at Uncle Derek's. Mom says this is home now. I found her plans. Please come." The betrayal cut deeper than any wound Nate had sustained in combat. Claire hadn't just left him. She'd orchestrated this for months, possibly years. The forged documents, the strategic timing while he was away, the custody play. It was all calculated. Nate walked through his empty house, haunted by the life he thought was real. In Ethan's room, he found a small notebook hidden under the mattress. Inside, Ethan had been keeping a diary with entries like, "Mom talks to Uncle Derek every night when Dad's not home, and Mom said, Uncle Derek will replace Dad soon, but I know it's a lie." That's when Nate realized Ethan had known something was wrong. His son, his brilliant, observant son, had been watching, waiting, and apparently planning something of his own. Nate drove to Derek's landscaping company office, a modest building in Springfield. He needed to see Ethan to understand what his son had done and to begin planning his response. Derek Sullivan was a tall, rugged man with calloused hands and a guarded stare that had once charmed Claire. Now, facing Nate after a decade, Derek's eyes betrayed a flicker of guilt, as if he knew Claire's plan was unraveling. "Nate," Derek said, stepping out of his office trailer, "I figured you'd show up. Where's my son?" "He's inside with Claire. Look, I know this is messy, but Claire and we've been working toward this for years. She needed your resources to set us up." Nate studied Derek carefully. Despite the situation, he didn't sense malice in the man. More like someone who'd been ensnared by Claire's manipulation. "That doesn't give you the right to steal my family." "I didn't steal anything. Claire chose this." Before Nate could respond, Ethan burst out of the trailer, running into his father's arms. "Dad, I knew you'd come." Claire appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable but defiant. "Ethan, get back inside. Your father and I need to talk." "Actually," Ethan said, grinning up at Nate, "I think Dad's going to want to hear what I did first." Nate knelt to Ethan's level. "What are you talking about, buddy?" Ethan's grin widened. "Remember how you taught me about insurance policies and backup plans? Well, I made my own backup plan." Claire's face went pale. "Ethan, don't. 5 months ago, when Mom started acting weird and talking to Uncle Derek all the time, I started recording their phone calls," Ethan announced proudly. "I hid your old surveillance equipment in Mom's purse and her car. I have hours of recordings of them planning this whole thing." Nate felt a surge of pride mixed with concern. His son had been conducting his own investigation. "That's not all, Dad. I also made copies of all the papers Mom was hiding in her secret box, including the ones where she practiced forging your signature." And Ethan paused dramatically. "I may have accidentally sent all of it to someone." "Who?" Claire whispered, her confident facade crumbling. Ethan looked at his father with innocent eyes. "Your friend Lucas from the FBI? I thought he might want to know about the fraud stuff. He seemed nice when he came to dinner last week." Nate's mind raced. Lucas Hayes was indeed an FBI agent, specializing in financial crimes. If Ethan had actually sent evidence of Claire's fraud to Lucas, the implications were staggering. "Ethan, when did you send this?" Nate asked. "Yesterday afternoon, right before we moved here. I wanted to make sure it got sent before anything happened to the computer." Claire and Derek exchanged terrified glances. Nate stood up slowly, a cold smile spreading across his face. This changed everything. That evening, Nate sat in his hotel room. He couldn't bear to stay in the empty house, reviewing everything Ethan had secretly documented. His son had been more thorough than most professional investigators. The recordings revealed not just the affair, but Claire's calculated plan to frame Nate for tax evasion using falsified business records, ensuring she'd gain everything in the divorce. The most damning recording was Claire explaining to Derek how she'd been slowly transferring money from Nate's business accounts to hidden accounts, planning to claim half of everything in the divorce while keeping the stolen funds secret. She'd also been sabotaging Nate's contracts by leaking client data to a rival firm, hoping to bankrupt him. But it was Ethan's final recording that made Nate's blood boil. Claire telling Derek, "Ethan's just a complication. Once we get full custody and the house money, we can send him to boarding school. He's too much like Nate, too observant, too smart. He'll figure out everything eventually." Nate called Lucas Hayes, who confirmed that Ethan's package had arrived at the FBI field office. "Nate, this is serious stuff. Wire fraud, forgery, identity theft. Your wife is looking at federal charges, but there's a bigger fish here. Derek's company is a front for laundering money for a local crime syndicate. Ethan's evidence just cracked it open." "What does that mean?" "It means Claire and Derek are both facing RICO charges. This is bigger than you thought." Nate spent the rest of the night planning. Claire thought she'd played the perfect game, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She hadn't counted on Ethan's tech skills, honed by Nate's own training. Ethan's evidence was the foundation, but Nate needed to build something more comprehensive, more devastating. He started by calling his business attorney, Ellen Carter, a shark who specialized in complex litigation. "Ellen, I need you to freeze every account Claire has access to, file emergency custody motions, and begin asset recovery proceedings. Use the FBI evidence as grounds for fraud." Next, he contacted his client network. Claire's real estate license was about to become worthless when word spread about her criminal activities. Nate had helped protect several powerful people's secrets. Now it was time to call in favors, but the centerpiece of Nate's revenge would be more personal. He'd use Claire's own tactics against her, exposing her lies in a way that would leave her nowhere to hide. Claire and Derek had declared war on his family. Now they would learn what war with Nathaniel Thompson actually looked like. As he sat planning, Nate received a text from Ethan. "Dad, are you proud of me? I know you always said to have evidence before making accusations. I hope I did good." Nate typed back, "You did perfect, son. Now let Daddy handle the rest." Ethan replied, "Are you going to make them sorry?" Nate stared at the message for a long moment before responding, "They already are." They just don't know it yet. 5 days later, Claire's world began crumbling faster than she could comprehend. Nate had spent those days methodically destroying every foundation of her new life with Derek, starting with their finances. Ellen Carter had worked her magic through the courts. Every account Claire had touched was frozen, pending fraud investigation. The house sale was halted by a federal judge who ruled that property obtained through forged documents couldn't be legally transferred. Derek's landscaping company accounts were also frozen when the FBI discovered irregularities that tied back to Claire's financial activities. Nate's network of clients proved devastatingly effective. Claire's real estate firm received anonymous tips about her criminal investigation, leading to her immediate suspension. Derek's landscaping company lost 4 major contracts in 3 days when Nate's clients, influential developers in the area, decided they couldn't risk association with companies under federal investigation. But the real blow came when Nate leaked a recording of Claire admitting she'd framed Derek to a local reporter, turning Derek against her. Ethan called Nate that morning, his voice excited. "Dad, Mom's freaking out. She's been on the phone all day, crying and yelling. Uncle Derek looks scared too. They keep talking about needing money for lawyers. How are you holding up, buddy?" "I'm good. I'm writing everything down like you taught me. Mom doesn't know I understand what's happening, but I do. She's in big trouble, isn't she?" Nate felt that familiar surge of pride in his son's intelligence. "Yes, she is. Are you okay with that?" Ethan was quiet for a moment. "Dad, I heard her tell Uncle Derek that she never wanted me anyway, that I was just part of her plan to get your money. I know she's my mom, but I don't want to live with someone who doesn't want me." The pain in his son's voice ignited something cold and dangerous in Nate's chest. Claire hadn't just betrayed him. She'd emotionally damaged their child. That was unforgivable. "Ethan, listen to me. You're going to come home very soon, but until then, I need you to be strong and keep watching. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir." "Dad, will you still want me even though I'm her son too?" Nate had to take a deep breath before answering. "Ethan, you're the best thing that ever happened to me." "You're my son, and that will never change. What she did has nothing to do with you." After hanging up, Nate called his friend Ryan Mitchell, a private investigator who specialized in surveillance and information gathering. "Ryan, I need you to watch Derek Sullivan's house, 24/7. I want to know every visitor, every conversation you can pick up, every movement, and I need dirt on both of them. I need proof Claire's been playing a double game with someone else." "What kind of proof?" "The kind that makes her allies turn on her." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "Nate, how far are you planning to take this?" "As far as necessary. They declared war on my family. Ryan, I'm going to finish it." By the end of the week, Claire was desperate enough to make her first major mistake. She called Nate. Her voice barely controlled panic. "Nate, we need to talk. This has gone too far." "Has it? Because from where I'm sitting, it's just getting started. The FBI froze everything. Derek might lose his business. I can't even access my commission accounts. That tends to happen when you commit federal crimes. I made mistakes, okay? But we can work this out. We don't have to destroy each other." Nate laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Destroy each other? Claire, you don't have anything left to lose that I haven't already taken or can't take. But you're right, we should talk. Meet me at Harborview Cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. Come alone." The next day, Nate arrived at the cafe early, choosing a corner table where Ryan had already placed recording equipment. When Claire walked in, Nate barely recognized her. The confident, polished woman he'd married was gone, replaced by someone who looked haggard and desperate. "You look terrible," Nate observed as she sat down. "Don't be cruel, Nate. I know you're angry." "Angry?" Nate interrupted. "Claire, I'm not angry. Anger is a hot emotion. What I am is cold, calculated, and completely committed to watching you pay for what you've done." Claire's hands shook as she reached for her coffee. "What do you want? Money? I'll give you everything back." "Everything back?" Nate leaned forward. "Can you give me back the 10 years I wasted loving someone who is stealing from me? Can you give Ethan back his sense of security? Can you undo the damage you've done to our son's ability to trust?" Ethan will be fine. He's stronger than you think. Ethan heard you tell Derek you never wanted him, that he was just part of your plan. Claire's face went white. Yeah? My son tells me things. He also told me about the times you left him alone overnight when I was traveling so you could be with Derek. 11 years old, Claire. You left an 11-year-old alone in the house. That was only a few times. Child endangerment charges are federal when they cross state lines for the purposes of fraud. Did you know that? Claire started crying. Please, Nate, I'll do anything. I'll give you full custody. I'll disappear. You'll do all of that anyway. See, Claire, you still don't understand. This isn't a negotiation. This is me telling you what's going to happen. Nate slid a manila envelope across the table. Open it. Inside were photographs that made Claire gasp. Pictures of her meeting with a man Nate didn't recognize at what looked like a motel. Who is this, Claire? I don't know what you mean. His name is Evan Foster. He's married with 3 kids. He's also your real estate mentor from 7 years ago, the one you've been using to funnel money to Derek's syndicate contacts. Claire's face crumpled. How did you? I'm very good at my job. Evan's wife is a smart woman named Rachel. She's a lawyer. She's already working with the FBI to expose your network. Would you like to guess what happens when she hands over the evidence you've been hiding in Evan's account? Nate, please. Evan's been your silent partner, hasn't he? That's how you financed this whole operation. He laundered your stolen funds through his firm. Now he's going to prison alongside you. Nate stood up. See, the beautiful thing about dominoes is that once you start them falling, you can't stop them. You set this in motion when you decided to destroy our family. Now I'm just following through. That afternoon, Nate received a call that accelerated his timeline. Ryan had been monitoring Derek's house when he witnessed something that changed everything. Nate, you need to hear this. Derek just threw Claire out. He's furious because he found a burner phone with texts proving she was double-crossing him with Evan, promising Evan the same future she promised Derek. What specifically did he say? Found out she's been playing both him and Evan, telling each one they were her endgame, while married to you. Derek's threatening to turn state's evidence to save himself, but here's the twist. Claire's trying to blackmail him with proof of his syndicate ties. Nate felt a cold satisfaction. Claire's support system was collapsing, exactly as he'd planned. Where's Ethan? He's inside with Derek. He's pretending to read, but I saw him slip a USB drive into his pocket. I think he's still gathering evidence. He's a strong kid. What else? Derek's on the phone with someone now. He's trying to cut a deal with the feds before Claire can. Nate smiled. Perfect. That means Ethan's going to need somewhere to go very soon. 3 hours later, Ethan called. Dad, Uncle Derek says I can't stay here anymore. He says Mom lied to him about everything and he's scared of her now. Can you come get me? I'm already on my way, son. When Nate arrived at Derek's house, he found Claire sitting on the front steps, mascara streaked down her face, surrounded by suitcases. Derek stood in the doorway with Ethan beside him. Take the kid, Derek said without preamble. I'm done with all of this. Claire, you're not welcome here anymore. Derek, please, Claire started. You lied about everything. You told me Evan was out of the picture, that you chose me. Then I find out you've been feeding him our plans while Nate was in Seattle. You're still married to Nate, still scheming with Evan, and using me as your pawn. Ethan walked past his mother without a word and climbed into Nate's car. Nate paused at Claire's side. Bank transfers, Claire dating back 3 years. Evan's been funneling your money to offshore accounts linked to Derek's syndicate. Derek found the records when Ethan tipped him off. Claire looked up at him, her face destroyed. How could you possibly know about? Because I know everything. Every account, every lie, every secret meeting. I've been building a case against you for 9 months. 9 months? But you only found out 5 days ago. Nate smiled coldly. I found out about Derek 5 days ago. I've known about Evan for 9 months. I've been waiting to see how far you'd go. He leaned down to her level. Did you really think a man who makes his living exposing secrets would notice when his own wife was keeping them? The realization hit Claire like a physical blow. You knew this whole time? I knew enough. Ethan's investigation just filled in the gaps and gave me the legal evidence I needed. Nate stood up. Enjoy the hotel, Claire. It's the last luxury you'll have for a very long time. As Nate drove away with Ethan, his son was quiet for several minutes before speaking. Dad, how long have you really known about Mom? Nate glanced at his son in the rearview mirror. A while, buddy. I was trying to figure out the best way to handle it without hurting you. I'm not hurt, Dad. I'm angry. She made us both look stupid. No, son. She made herself look stupid. We just documented it. Ethan smiled, and Nate saw his own determination reflected in his son's eyes. What happens now? Now we make sure she never hurts anyone else's family again. 3 weeks later, Claire's desperation reached its peak. Living in a motel with all her accounts frozen and her real estate license suspended, she made the call Nate had been waiting for. Nate, I'll sign anything, give you anything, just make this stop. It's too late for that, Claire. What do you mean it's too late? You have everything. The house, Ethan, my career is ruined. What more do you want? I want you to understand something. This was never about the money or even the house. This was about you thinking you could manipulate my family and get away with it. Nate was sitting in his office watching multiple monitors that showed surveillance feeds from Claire's motel, Evan's house, and Derek's workplace. He'd hacked into Claire's burner phone, revealing her desperate attempts to contact a syndicate fixer to silence Derek. There's something you should know, Nate continued. Evan's wife, Rachel, filed for divorce yesterday. She's taking the kids and half of everything he owns. Evan's landscaping business, the one he was using to launder your stolen money, is being seized by the feds. How is that possible? Because Rachel is a smart woman who doesn't like being played for a fool. When I showed her the evidence of Evan's involvement in your fraud scheme, she decided to protect herself and her children. Claire's breathing became labored. You're destroying innocent people. No, Claire, you destroyed innocent people. I'm just making sure the consequences reach everyone who participated. Nate pulled up another screen. Speaking of consequences, have you checked your voicemail lately? What voicemail? The one from the federal prosecutor's office. You've been indicted on 15 counts of wire fraud, identity theft, and money laundering. Evan got 18 counts. The trial starts in 4 months. The line went quiet except for Claire sobbing. Here's what's going to happen, Nate continued. You're going to plead guilty to avoid a trial that would destroy what little reputation you have left. You're going to serve your sentence quietly, and when you get out, you're going to disappear from Ethan's life forever. I'm his mother. You forfeited that title when you told Derek you never wanted him. I have recordings, Claire, multiple recordings of you saying Ethan was a mistake, a burden, a complication in your plans. Nate's voice dropped to a whisper. But here's the part you're really going to hate. Ethan doesn't want to see you anymore. Not for visits, not for phone calls, not for letters. Yesterday, he asked me to help him legally change his last name to Thompson only. He wants to remove every trace of your family name from his identity. You turned him against me. I didn't have to. You did that yourself when you chose 2 other men over your own child. Nate's revenge wasn't complete until everyone who had participated in betraying his family faced consequences. He'd exposed Claire's syndicate connections, ensuring no one would trust her again. Evan Foster was the next domino to fall. Nate had discovered that Evan's landscaping business was built on fraudulent loan applications and tax evasion. When the FBI raided his offices, they found evidence not just of the money laundering scheme with Claire, but of a larger pattern of fraud dating back years. Evan was looking at 30 years in federal prison. Rachel, Evan's wife, had proved to be an unexpected ally. She provided the FBI with Evan's encrypted ledgers, sealing his fate. Derek Sullivan was more complicated. Nate's investigation revealed that Derek was genuinely a victim of Claire's manipulation, but he'd still participated in breaking up a family and taking another man's child. For Derek, Nate chose a different kind of justice. Nate owned significant influence in the landscaping industry through his security clients. Within a month, Derek found himself blacklisted from every major project in Massachusetts and the surrounding states. His business collapsed when the syndicate cut ties, fearing exposure. The final piece was Claire herself. Facing 18 years in prison and the complete destruction of her life, she took the plea deal Nate's prosecutor friend had crafted. 7 years in federal prison, full restitution of stolen funds, and permanent relinquishment of parental rights. But Nate had one last surprise for her. On the day Claire was scheduled to surrender to federal authorities, Nate arranged for Ethan to be at school for an important test. He wanted his son focused on his future, not watching his mother's final downfall. Nate drove Claire to the federal courthouse, a final act to ensure she faced her consequences. "Why are you here?" she asked as they sat in his car outside the building. "Because I want to see you walk through those doors knowing that you did this to yourself. Nate, I know you hate me, but someday Ethan might want to know his mother." "No," Nate's voice was final. "Ethan has made it clear he wants nothing to do with you. And even if he changes his mind when he's older, you'll have nothing to offer him. No money, no home, no career, no relationships. You'll be a woman who destroyed her family for nothing." Nate handed her a final envelope. "This is Ethan's statement to the court. He asked me to give it to you." With shaking hands, Claire opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper with Ethan's careful handwriting. "Mom, Dad says I should write down how I feel about everything that happened. I feel sorry for you because you threw away the best family in the world for people who didn't really love you. Dad and I love each other, and we're going to be fine without you. I hope prison helps you figure out how to be a better person. I won't be waiting for you when you get out, but I hope you find happiness somewhere else. Goodbye forever, Ethan Thompson." Claire broke down completely, but Nate felt nothing. He'd won, but the victory felt hollow, a reminder of the family he'd lost. 7 years, Claire. When you get out, if you ever come near my son or try to contact him, I'll destroy you again. And next time, I won't be as merciful. 4 months after Claire began her prison sentence, Nate and Ethan had built a new life that was stronger than the old one. They'd moved to a new house in Lexington, closer to Ethan's new school and Nate's office. The house was smaller than their old one, but it felt more like home than anywhere they'd lived before. Ethan thrived in his new environment. His grades improved, he made friends easily, and he showed no signs of missing his mother. Nate had arranged for counseling sessions, and Ethan was grappling with the betrayal, but his resilience shone through. "Dad," Ethan said one evening as they worked on homework together, "do you think I'm bad for not missing Mom?" Nate looked at his son carefully. "No, buddy. I think you're smart enough to understand that missing someone who hurt you doesn't make sense. Some kids at school said I should be sad about my mom being in prison. What do you think?" Ethan considered this. "I think I'm sad about the mom I thought I had. But I'm not sad about the mom who lied to us and tried to steal our family." Nate felt a surge of pride in his son's emotional intelligence. That's a very mature way to look at it. "Dad, are you going to get married again?" The question caught Nate off guard. "I don't know. Why?" "Because I think you should. But this time, maybe we should investigate the person first, together." Nate laughed, the first genuine laughter he'd felt in months. "You want to run background checks on my dates?" "Maybe not background checks, but we should definitely test them somehow. See if they're really nice or just pretending." Looking at his son, this brilliant, resilient boy who'd helped save their family with his courage and intelligence, Nate felt something he hadn't in years. A fragile hope, tempered by the scars of betrayal. "You know what, Ethan? That's not a bad idea. We make a pretty good team." "The best team," Ethan agreed. "And Dad, next time, let's make sure she loves both of us for real." Nate pulled his son into a hug, grateful for the bond they'd forged through pain. Claire had tried to destroy their family, but instead she'd revealed their strength. Yet Nate knew the wounds would linger, a quiet ache beneath their new beginning. Claire's betrayal had cost her everything, but Nate and Ethan paid a price too, not just in trust, but in the innocence of what family once meant. Ethan had chosen his father over his mother, truth over lies, loyalty over betrayal. As for Claire, Evan, and Derek, they were learning that crossing Nathaniel Thompson came with consequences that lasted a lifetime. Nate and Ethan were moving forward, but the shadow of Claire's actions would always linger, a reminder that even victory comes at a cost. They'd survived, stronger but not unscathed, carrying the weight of a family rebuilt on truth, but forever changed by lies.